Welcome back, and we have breaking news coming out of London. Broadcaster Sir Michael Parkinson has died at the age of 88. His family has just released a short statement saying after a brief illness, Sir Michael Parkinson passed away peacefully at home last night in the company of his family. The family requests they are given privacy and time to grieve. This is a man who set the standard as a talk show host when it came to interviews with the likes of Sir Billy Connolly, Muhammad Ali, Sir Elton John, Madonna and Dame Helen Mirren. He certainly set the standard, and here is our tribute to him.
That theme drew millions to their television sets each week.
Evening and welcome.
If you wanted a sure sign that you'd made it as a celebrity, sitting next to Michael Parkinson would do it.
The actors are all looking at the musicians. Look at those musicians. They've got it so easy. All they do is play the guitar and stand up and sing.
And then you got the comedians down the end.
Yeah, they're all goofing around.
Born in Yorkshire in 1935, the son of a miner, he started his journalism career straight out of school in newspapers, before moving into television in the 1960s. And in 1971, started the program that made him a household name.
I think you've got to accept, John, and Yoko, that, particularly you, John, that it's alienated you from the people who originally loved you in this country.
A lot of them, yes.
Yes, I think they don't understand you anymore.
Listen, the alienation started was when I met Yoko, and people do not seem to like people getting a divorce.
I think he had to clear the decks in order to give Yoko space. This was now his new relationship, and being a good, loving guy, he had to kind of get rid of the old mates. But the great thing about it was that after all that warring, before he died, we did make it up.
As a journalist, he'd done his homework on each guest. As an interviewer, he knew how to bring out their best.
I think the most important thing about interviewing is to actually establish a relationship with the person sitting opposite, because after all, it's a totally phony operation. All this nonsense around, palaver, walk down the stairs, a band playing, all that sort of stuff. And I don't care who you are. When you reach the bottom of the stairs, you see this stranger opposite you, me, you think, what the hell am I doing here?
Are there any tricks of the trade, Ma'am, about meeting people, walk about, talking to people?
Yes, I think there probably are.
How bad was the drugs and alcohol situation? Well, I did ring up the office one day to complain that the wind was too windy.
You've been voted the sexiest man of the century, for God's sake.
Well, they have great taste.
Of all his thousands of guests, his most famous sparring partner was the greatest, Muhammad Ali.
I love your show, and I like your style. But your pay is so cheap, I won't be back for a while.
4 interviews over a decade, where the world heavyweight boxing champion was funny, revealing, and occasionally intimidating.
He had that physical presence which could threaten you. I mean, joke about it.
Were you ever frightened of him?
Now and again.
You and this little TV show is nothing to Muhammad Ali. If you got some more questions, I asked him, and I bet you I'll eat you up right here on there. It ain't no way you can tackle me.
Parkinson himself was nearly always genial and unflappable, although he wasn't afraid to tackle Kerry Packer over World Series cricket.
He actively recruited people, Kerry, while he was captain of England, privy to important information on the other side.
There hasn't been any important information on the other side for 100 years.
He was in the...
He was a frequent visitor to Australia.
We met in the lift in Sydney, I think it was the first time, many years ago. My second home, Sydney.
In 1979, he brought his program Down Under, inviting our biggest names into his Sydney studio.
He's been described as Australian as Vegemite. Ladies and gentlemen, Bob Hawke. Ladies and gentlemen, Johnny Farnham. Ladies and gentlemen, Bert Newton.
Australia, Australian television, life in Australia. Talk to us.
It's very interesting going to Australia. It's such a long, long way away that when you get there, it's like being on another planet. And everything that worries you in Europe and everything that bothers you in Britain disappears.
It left him with a soft spot for Aussie larrikins.
Hello, darling.
Hello, dear.
Here we are again.
Embracing Dame Edna.
Funnily enough, exciting though it has been, I felt a sense of gratitude from the audience when I came on.
Calling Shane Warne a genius.
Tell us a story about the boomerang. I love this story.
I've still got the scar just here.
This is a metaphor for your life, you know, this is.
Sort of threw the boomerang and didn't quite get it right. And then once I got it right and sort of just kept going around, I thought, oh, that's pretty good. And suddenly it started coming towards me. I thought, geez, I better try and catch that.
And he admitted of all those thousands of interviews, there was one he wished he could have done better.
I'd like to get the Meg Ryan one right. I mean, we're both in a fairly grim mood, I think.
If you were me, what would you do now?
Well, just wrap it up.
Parkinson later admitted the toll being in the spotlight took on him.
After the death of my father, which affected me greatly, I just hit the bottle. I didn't become an alcoholic. I pulled back. I went and sought advice, and Mary was wonderful.
For his final show, he brought in his all-time favourite guests, including the Scottish comedian he'd helped make a star.
Don't go! Please don't go. It's the only television I get.
In his later years, he had a long fight with cancer, but there were no complaints, just reflections on a life spent seeking answers.
I loved every minute of it. I've been a very, very lucky man indeed.
He was the very, very best, and he showed us all how it was done. So Michael Parkinson, gone at 88.